Welcome to EpiSTEM podcast. This EpiSTEM podcast is brought to you from the National Centre of STEM Education at the School of Education in the University of Limerick. I'm your host, Geraldine Simmie, and I'm the Professor of STEM Education here at the Centre and the Director of EpiSTEM. And my co-host,
Michelle Starr, and I am the Research Liaison Officer in EpiSTEM.
very welcome back to the podcast today, and we have a very special guest, Norma O'Brien, the Director of the Limerick Education Support Centre with us. You're very welcome, Norma.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Esteemed company.
Yeah, it'd be lovely.
And of course I'm here as well, Michelle Starr, and welcome to Norma.
Yeah, I mean the Limerick Education Support Centre, being a director of it, it's a huge number of schools in Limerick. Can you give us an idea of the size or anything about it?
Oh yeah, sure. We service all of the primary and the post-primary schools in Limerick City and County and in North Tipperary, because there isn't a full-time education centre in Tip. So we have a large number of schools and teachers on our books.
Yeah, lovely. So tell me, I know you were a school principal at one stage and you've had a varied career through the years, but where have you come from, I suppose, yourself?
Well, Limerick born and bred, definitely. A graduate of this campus, though before it was UL, so that'll give you some indication of my age. At Thomond College, if you remember it.
Yes, I remember it very well.
Yes, I graduated as a science, biology and ag science teacher, though never taught ag science. And I suppose back in those days, there were very few jobs and that, so I up sticks and went to London for 2 years and had a fantastic time teaching over there. Really opened my eyes to multiculturalism and just the wider world.
Yes.
It was absolutely fantastic. Now, I did come back for love. My boyfriend of the time, my now wonderful husband, was working here, so I came back and the job situation hadn't changed much, so I actually considered a career change at that point.
Right.
So I did a Masters in UCD in Environmental Resource Management, and I was going to go down the road of Environmental Impact Assessment. So I was possibly never going to be in education. But just as I was finishing that up and Stony broke, I got offered a teaching position in beautiful West Cork, and I took that. And I suppose I stayed on the education journey, which really is where my heart always was.
Fabulous.
So I've taught a number of different schools. Came back to my own school where I was a student and taught there for 5 years.
And then, what was your own school?
Salesian Secondary School in Limerick. It isn't there now any longer, but
is that the one on the Shelburne Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I know it well.
Yes.
So back in the staff room with teachers who taught me, and I was now there as a teacher, which was a wonderful experience because they were lovely. Yeah. They were lovely. And then I went out to County Limerick VC, out to Clárstevere in Eskeaton, and I was there for 18 years, teacher for 11, principal for 7.
Yes.
And then came back in to Thomond Community College, which funnily enough was an amalgamation of the Salesians and St. Nessans.
Yeah.
So I came back in and I came back in as principal in there. So ended up as principal of some of the teachers who taught me from my Leaving Cert, which was a very, very, very bizarre space to
fabulous.
be in.
Yeah, very
interesting.
Yeah. And I suppose this job came up then in 2021, and I just looked at it because I remember Dr. Joe O'Connell, who was director of Limerick Education Centre for a long time, and just being I'm a big fan of Joe's anyway.
Very much, me too.
That's a role now that could have more influence, on what's going on in education circles. So
people do influence you.
Yeah,
they do.
They
strongly,
do. Absolutely.
Strongly.
Yeah.
The role modelling piece is not made up. It's very serious.
Absolutely.
There's a real legacy people leave, isn't there? An ethical legacy people leave in education, and his definitely is a huge one.
Oh, definitely, and he does a lot of work for me on our Learning Schools project.
Well, I met him when I was on the transition year support team.
That's
and I found him
like
he was a principal of the school out in Tulla, and I learned so much about the children were taking part in the Tulla, a mini Tulla Ceilidh band in the lunch breaks, and as well as him being at the centre as well. So isn't that a lovely story? Yeah.
Can I interject? It's what I'd love to do is go back to your London experience, because I think that's phenomenal.
Yes.
That must really pay today, in the Ireland of today, from the I suppose the 2000s, with the diversity increasing within the country and then reflected in the school system. and which was a shock to, you know, to our school system, because it was such a monolithic, you know, a monoculture. So, but, you know, you had that experience under your belt.
Yeah, in the
which
late
was
80s,
wonderful.
early 90s, and it was fabulous. It was a total eye-opener, but
I can
it was a
imagine.
very enriching experience, and I suppose possibly the roots of my whole social justice and
Yes.
respect and inclusion and equity and all of those kind of principles kind of came from that experience as well. And I know people give out about the young teachers going to Abu Dhabi and places like that, but I think all young people need to get away and experience
I
some
agree.
things. What we need to do
It's
is
the
get them back.
University of Life, yeah. Get
Absolutely,
them
but we
back.
need to get them back
We
now
do.
and
We do.
to take that
and to
learning.
create the
Yes.
conditions where people can come back.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
make and make that big contribution.
it.
I mean, I was looking at the Central Statistics Office report for kind of 2030 or whatever when we were doing our 2050, thinking about the Eco-Village project, and I was saying like the population of Ireland is going to be 6.5 million, huge more diversity, all of that. So how do we cope with that unless we have an open mind?
That's
and
it.
you get that from being abroad, and you
That's
come
it.
back then and you see, you really begin to weigh up what's really great in Ireland, and then you see where we need to really
Yeah.
buck up and
I
do
agree.
things differently.
It's just, it's until we're taken out of our comfort zone, which is our
Yeah.
culture, and you get into another. I mean, it was, you know, like your London experience, it must have been a completely different
Totally
culture.
at the time it was totally.
It's a shock too, especially young. You know,
Yeah.
you're just out of college and
Yeah.
you were trained in.
There was no Drogheda in those
No,
days, and there
wasn't.
was nobody kind of
No.
checking in and knew you were
No.
just dropped in it and off you went.
and tell me, what part of London was it?
I was in North London the first year in Queen's Park,
Yeah.
and then I was in South London the second
and
year.
was there a difference in
Very,
social
oh yeah,
class,
yeah,
like
yeah,
from
very
wealthy
much.
to
It was,
middle class?
it was very
or
much a community-based
poor? Yeah.
school in North London, and then it was an all-boys Catholic school, secondary school in South London.
And what
So
would you have noticed as the difference? The big, like, is looking back on it, what would be the big difference?
Well, I suppose very similar to the differences that we have, you know, in schools here, you know, just in terms of I mean, there was every day there were new students coming into my class from war-torn countries and from conflict and things like that with no English. So it was nearly like what's happening now was happening then, especially in Queen's Park. And I suppose you just get on with it. And,
Yeah.
you know, they're just children, you
Yeah,
know, and they
that's
need
it.
to be looked
Absolutely.
after and minded
They do.
and educated.
And cared for
Yeah.
and educated, and the care is very important to see the child
Absolutely.
and recognise them.
That's it.
That's
it.
what they're
look, if-
hungry for as children.
If you ask any of the students at any of my assemblies when I was principal, what word would they remember? And that would be the word that I would have said on a regular basis was respect.
Yeah.
You know, and when you'd have kids in your office and there was a conflict and some argument going on, you just talk about respect. And okay, we
Yeah.
don't have to like everybody, but we have to be civil and we have to respect people.
We do.
And that would be my core, I suppose,
It's very,
value myself.
very relevant today. You know,
absolutely
people
and
is-
totally. And if everybody respected everybody else, we wouldn't have any problems.
No.
Yeah.
At the heart of education then is really that ethics of care and respect.
Absolutely.
That's at the heart. And I mean, I suppose all the other thing, the metrics and all the outcomes and all, they're all secondary, even though nowadays when you hear the policymakers around the world speak, you would imagine that it was the most important thing, because what we're talking about isn't so out loud. The care and the ethics is not as loud as some of the other stuff, like the metrics and the
so
measurement.
much of a teacher's time and so much of a principal's time and so much of all the staff in the school's time goes into that element of schooling.
Yes.
You know, totally secondary to what goes on or separate to what goes on in the classroom.
Just of course, it's like it's a first cousin, a second cousin of parenting in a way. When
Well, sure, you're in
from
loco
age
parentis,
11,
yeah.
11 to 18, and so on. You are in and even here at the university, in a way, we're in loco parentis. And I know people are 18 plus, but I don't know when young people grow as adults. I know with our own sons, I think you're nearly in their 30s before you could say, you know, it's a big long journey involved there in that.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you think are I suppose with all that life experience, what are the strengths, would you think, of the education system that you see here in Ireland? What are our strengths?
I suppose one of our biggest strengths is our teaching profession. And I suppose when you look at teachers, and if you look at the project that we are involved in and that we're here chatting about today, you know, when you put out an expression of interest for something new, that there's never any shortage of people to come forward. I mean, you know, the teachers that are involved in this project, this isn't what they were employed by their schools to do. They have subjects to teach and exams to prepare for. This is an extra, you know. So I think that is so important and so wonderful in our system that teachers are constantly putting themselves forward, to help students to get involved in projects that are innovative and exciting and different and extra. And it means extra time for the teachers, because this isn't going to happen maybe in a classroom. This is going to be maybe lunchtimes or after schools or something like that. So I can't commend highly enough the teachers who express interest, and that's part of what we do in the centre.
You're talking about that piece, like that altruistic piece when we're teaching, that giving over and above, and that it's actually it's really the heart of, again, that ethical teaching.
Absolutely,
it's that, and if that ever dries up and the whole thing becomes so rigidly becomes a mechanistic model of you do this much of teaching and that, and then you whatever. We lose the heart and soul of our system, won't we?
Yeah, and I think that volunteerism of teachers has to be recognised.
It does.
And it is just so important. And I suppose, looking at other elements of what's good in the country, when you look at junior cycle reform, one of the things I was most excited about, I don't think it lived up to as much as it should have been, but when they included on the certificate for the junior cycle the other areas of learning.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is what I've been saying for such a long time.
Yeah.
We're going to identify other things that these young people did in their 3 years of junior cycle, not just their English result and their science result and their history result.
Lovely.
And I'd love to see that at Leaving Cert. I'd love to see a more broader recommendation or certification of what the young people have achieved, because at the moment the Leaving Cert is reduced to a digit.
Yeah, it is.
How did you get on in your Leaving Cert? I got X number of points.
Yeah.
But where's the other learning? Where's the likes of this project going to be recognised?
Hugely.
And the skills that they're developing in doing something like this.
We really need to develop a kind of our own confidence to be able to do something a little bit different from other countries as well. Stop being followers of fashion.
But I do think other countries, and I suppose, and here I am sitting in UL now, but it's that connection between second and third level. I think very much in this country we're very much dictated by the CAO system, whereas other countries have recognition of what students do. They have statements, personal statements and things like that as well. I'd like to see something like that where education, the full value of what they have learned throughout their time in school is being recognised and identified.
Michelle, I mean, that's fiercely important to all of us.
It is. I mean, what you're saying is, because we talk about it all the time, that it's like as if we're following these PISAs and these TIMS and all of these evaluations, and they're talked about and they're brought up in policies, and and what I think as well, especially with the PISA, which is a big one that is talked about within the policy, in education policy area, is that it's an OECD, and OECD is an economic forum, and economics is, it's you just join the dots and you wonder where's the equality there within the education, because does economics always follow equality? So there should be, it's not that they should be thrown out of the bath. It's that it's a balance, as you said. It's that balance, is those other things that you look for and should be given equal precedence.
Yeah, and hopefully with the senior cycle reforms coming in, and that there's more emphasis on skill development and recognition of
and
that.
Care and all of that. I mean, that moves us nicely onto our Eco Village project. I mean, we wouldn't be having the project if it wasn't for your initiative coming with us at the start, and with the HUNT Museum, and with the tripartite approach, we wouldn't even have the project got off the ground if you weren't in it. But you had a huge commitment to the social justice aspect of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think a lot of people just think of education centres as places where the department's mandated CPD happens, but a big part of my remit as director is creating synergies between primary, post-primary, third level, local businesses, local organisations like the HUNT, and for creating opportunities for teachers and for schools to mix and mingle and work together. So that is a big part of my remit, and I suppose
it's very interesting.
It was just our 50th, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the centre, where yourself and Maria kind of expressed an interest in working together and thought, right, there's something we can do here. This is a great opportunity.
And you pursued it, which was lovely. And I mean, as director of EpiSTEM in the last year or two or whatever, my interest as well is support the research and the development, but make sure that there's loads of development and social outreach and everything going on, so that we're not in an ivory tower with the research, and we're doing no connection with anybody out there or with the schools or the teachers, because if there's something wrong if that's only always just going out getting research off people. That there's something wrong in the system. It's overdone, and there's an empirical thing in across education at the moment that is a reduced to almost empirical research. So my hope in the research in our research centre is becomes research and innovation and development and all that. And Michelle is also that way in thinking.
Yeah. And what is great about this is that your involvement, the way you both of you put this project together with the HUNT Museum, and that going out to the education centre and meeting the teachers there, and having our workshops with teachers that we put together here and bringing them out. So it's that synergy. So was that something that you kind of saw as the picture, or it evolved?
Absolutely. Yeah. And remember, we'd have no project if the teachers didn't express an interest on behalf of their students.
Yeah. That's right.
And like, I'm involved in a lot of projects, rolling out a lot of projects, and I have no difficulty. Every time I put out an expression of interest, there are teachers stepping up straight away saying, yeah, want to be involved in that, want to be involved in that.
And you were saying, like, when you're out there and you're listening to the students, that's when you really get the heart glad.
It reminds us why we do what we do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when they come and tell us now what we should do for housing
I know,
in
I'm
Ireland,
so excited.
I am dying to hear it.
Yeah.
Because,
and I said to you from the very beginning that they will blow you away.
They will.
With their thoughts and their ideas and their...
I agree.
Yeah, they will absolutely. Because I've seen it so many times with projects.
Yeah. And do you remember the time we went to the HUNT Museum first, and they had even the old pictures and the showing in the early days, even rural electrification and all that stepping up that's needed by the government. Whatever the parties are, whatever way the government works out, you want this confidence to build. Housing is such a big issue, and it's one that we need to get right. From loads of different angles and everything. So to hear the young people telling us what they think an eco-village will be like in 2050, it'll be very exciting.
It will. I was hosting a student panel discussion now last week in one of our evening sessions, and I just was so blown away by their confidence, and they were so articulate, and they were so invested and so informed, and their principal thing was action. They want to be able to action everything that's in their heads. Yeah. So it's wonderful to give these students...
Was that a broad theme, or were they talking about something specific?
They were talking about environmental issues going forward.
Wow.
I mean, I'm on the LESC, which is the Education Centre Network umbrella organisation. I'm on the Climate and Nature Subcommittee there.
Yes.
So we schedule CPD events for teachers and students in the evening times, and there's an awful lot of really good stuff going on there. We work with the ISSN, the Irish Secondary School Sustainability Network, in organising stuff. But as I say, the heart of it and the most interesting part of it is listening to the student voice, which is so important. So this is what excited me most about this project, because these teachers, I would imagine, would have been challenged by what we were suggesting and thinking, where are we going to go with this? And I say, just relax. The students will lead this. All you need to be there is a facilitator. The students will lead this.
And they are, because I've been calling out to the schools to see how they're getting on and talk with the students. And I went out last Friday morning to one of the schools, and just meeting the students in there and the hive of activity. And they were the ones, they were telling me things that I wouldn't even think of, and the way they were designing it. But then they are very confident, because then two students came over and they had the headphones and like this and said, "Can we interview you, please?" I was in shock. And they were just so articulate, and they were asking the right questions about the project and what we are doing, etc. So it's lovely to see it.
I think for any of our listeners that aren't totally au fait, I mean, we're always talking about the project, but I mean, for any of our listeners, I think what we designed with Norma and with the Limerick Education Support Centre and the HUNT Museum and EPI here in the University of Limerick was we organised a project where the students, through their STEM teachers and science teachers and art teachers across the curriculum, would come up with some kind of a design for a sustainable village in Ireland in 2050, but one that had social justice at the heart of it. It was going to be what was the greater good of society. It was going to not look so much at your own house and how you were doing your own electric car, but it was going to look at, I suppose, the bigger picture about public transport, housing, the green spaces and all of that, to make a community and build a community and have a decent place for everyone to live. I think that was the kind of thinking at the back of it. Did you say to me, Michelle, the mayor or somebody was coming on? What day are we running it here in UL, or what's happening?
Our awards ceremony is here in UL in the Foundation building on March the 27th. And the Mayor, we're honoured to have the Mayor Mourne as our guest of honour, and who will be here and presenting the prizes to the students. And then afterwards, it's wonderful to have the HUNT Museum are going to exhibit the students' posters and displays from the 1st of April until the 22nd of April, so that everyone in Limerick and the public and anyone can have the opportunity to go in and just hear and see their great ideas.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Lovely. That's lovely, yeah.
It is.
Okay, so I mean, Norma, I know you're. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I know you're doing a PhD study. I remember when I did my own PhD study later in life, after doing all my different things in education, teaching, and being around the transition year support, and I went and worked for a year in Maynooth with John Coolahan, and he said to me, it's a great way of integrating all of that life story, bringing it together. And I didn't fully get it at the time, what he was saying, but it did make sense to me later. I mean, where are you at with your PhD study, and what's the focus on it?
Was just in its infancy, I suppose. It was always kind of a bucket list thing for me.
Yeah.
If the right thing came at the right time, you know, and I suppose my boys are grown up now and they don't need me so much, or the timing is good. And this year the structured PhD in education leadership commenced here in UL, so I'm just in my first year now, and I suppose, like you say, bringing together all of my experiences down through the years, and you know, what I'm interested in is educational leadership from the teacher perspective and teacher leadership. So that's what I'm hoping to do some research on.
Yeah, lovely. And I mean, it's fantastic I think we're always trying to get our, you know, students here in PhDs and across masters and everything. If you can touch into the research and then hold on to your own experience and meld them together, that's really the pure scholarship, really. That's hopefully you'll get hopefully a great dividend and enjoy well, the work. I'm enjoying all the reading at the moment. There's quite a lot of reading, but I am enjoying it. Yeah. But so what I'm really looking forward to is getting into the actual research And
piece.
Do you want to say a word of hello to your supervisor?
Yes, I'd like to say hello and fantastic thank you to Professor Patricia Mannix McNamara and Dr. Nicolaas Blom. They are my two supervisors, and they're fantastic. Yeah. Keeping tabs on me and keep me under pressure. But
yeah, that's great. That's lovely, and we wish you every best wish with that. Is there anything we've left out, Michelle? Or?
No, I don't think so. I'd want to wish you the best of luck. Patricia is great. I mean, she's so professional, and her leadership, you know, what she does in the area of leadership is wonderful. And then, but you have so much experience. You could tell a lot of stories as well, because you've all that experience of leadership under your belt. And you're going in with that, and you know the loopholes, and you know the pit holes, should I say, and the other aspects, the good points and the bad points. So it's great.
But I suppose at the end of the day, for everything boils down to what are we doing to improve outcomes for students?
Yeah,
you know, and I suppose education for me is the great leveller. You know that every child needs access to the type of education that will help to improve their life chances, and that's kind of been my cornerstone in all the work that I have done.
But but at the end of the day, it must be very hard. When we're talking about leadership, because you know when you're the leader of a leader in the school, and because it's a community, so you have to include the parents and then the other teachers, you know, the fellow teachers and all the staff around, and that engagement outside within the community as well. That's tough. That whole thing.
It is pretty full on, but it's very satisfying.
Yes,
you know, and I suppose you know, once you have the involvement of all of your stakeholders and you're bringing them forward together and they're all informed, it makes life a good bit easier. I mean, communication is absolutely key there.
It is.
But I suppose what you're always saying all the time is that why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing it for the young people. We're doing it, as I said, to make sure that we're giving them the best chance to reach their potential, whatever that might be.
And I mean, the proof of the pudding is, I suppose, when we stop what we're doing and stop and listen and reflect, and we hear them coming back at us, then that's the reward, really, because you know the work that we do has got that ethical piece in it. When you hear young people saying how inspired they were by their teachers and their schools and all of that, that's what it's about, really, at the end of the day.
And I suppose the young people now for this project, it'll be exciting to see that they'll develop a solution-focused approach to dealing with the challenges that they are going to face, you know, as they move out into the world. And I suppose to see that they are solution-focused and that they are positive, and that it will give them some hope as well as all of the skills that will
it.
come with a project like this.
That's it.
That it will give them hope and say, yes, there are things we can do.
And we need the hope, and even that piece we've put in about reflection to kind of make it educational. We want them to be able to talent, you know, when you're you're talent spotting, you're spotting talent on others. You're understanding, I suppose, that a group involves a diversity of people with diverse talents. So a leader has got to be very clever and nuanced around how they get all of the talents to be contributing. So it's like they're beginning to learn that as well, working in groups, and their reflections hopefully will get them to rethink that, so they understand they've got to share their talents, but others have other talents as well. Almost, I say, to make up for what you're missing.
Well, it's wonderful because there's no leaving cert subject called group work, you know, but it would be a shame to miss that opportunity to reflect on that learning, because the learning is phenomenal when they work together on projects like this.
That's the personal learning, to know that socially we need one another and we need all the talents, and it's when we pull together that way that we have some chance of doing something better.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Norma, very much for coming today.
Thank you, Norma.
Lovely,
my pleasure.
really enjoyable. Yeah. And we'll be played out with some music today. We have Azar Mahmood, who's a world music student here in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance. As Ayaz is actually a singer and a songwriter. So I'm looking forward now to Azaz and what he's going to offer us today for our musical interlude.
I'm standing out into the night, and they're trying to hide the pain. I'm going to the place where love and a feeling good don't never cost a thing. And the pain, it feels a different kind of pain. I'm going home to the place where I belong, where love is always being enough for me. I'm running from, no, think you got me all wrong. Don't regret this life just for me. But these places and these faces are getting old. But these places and these faces are getting old. I'm going home. Well, I'm going home. The miles are getting longer, it seems. The closer I get to you. Not always been the best man, a friend for you, but love remains true. I don't know why. Always seem to give me another try. I'm going home to the place where I belong, where love is always being enough for me. I'm running from, no, think you got me all wrong. Don't regret this life just for me. But these places and these faces are getting old. But these places and these faces are getting old. I'm going home. Be careful what you wish for, 'cause you just might get it all. 'Cause you just might get it all when some you don't want. Be careful what you wish for, 'cause you just might get it all. 'Cause you just might get it all, yeah. I'm going home to the place where I belong, where love is always being enough for me. I'm running from, No, think you got me all wrong. Don't regret this life, choose for me. But these places and these faces are getting old. But these places and these faces are getting old. I'm going home.